understanding for a non-disclosure agreement, Unmanned Systems and Product Life Cycle Management, Inc. If Chief, if you could give us a little bit of an overview, and then I don't see anybody from law. John, could you possibly see if somebody from law might be able to just shoot over here, Catherine or somebody?
I think
Law.
Sarah Lathan was going to be here with us.
Yeah. Okay. So otherwise, go ahead.
I'll start off. I'm Mike Mons. I'm the Chief of Fire. Next to me, I got Captain Tim Gleason, Deputy Chief Jeff Kite, Sam Edelstein from our innovation team from the city has been working with us, and Sarah Lathan will be here with us. The overview is our fire department. We have an unmanned aerial system program. It has been in the works for several years. Last year, I was briefed on the uses and capabilities of the program. After getting all the facts about how this program can be used to keep our firefighters, police officers, and city workers, and ultimately our civilians and the property that we are sworn to protect, I was fully in support of the continuation and advancement of this program. There are many opportunities for advancement with this technology, and our department's been on the cutting edge of trying to move forward with the tight budget that we've been trying to maintain. This program has definitely enhanced public safety in our uses over the last 15 months. We've really been operating in the last 15 months, and we're going to continue to improve, and with our assistance from our partners inside the city and outside the city, that we're just looking at forward where we can make this meet the technology that the city's looking at with, some of the 5G things, some of the public safety initiatives that we have. So if you guys got any questions on that, let me know. Tim Gleason, he's the backbone of our program. He's been working very, very hard, a lot of hours into it. If there's any questions that you guys have that we can't answer, we'll get right back to you as soon as we get the information. So
Okay. First, I want to identify we have Councilor Allen, Councilor Driscoll, and Councilor Carney here, and I'm Steve Thompson, Chair of the Public Safety. So I think that one of the concerns that came up about this was relative to the propriety of the information that's being collected, and because there's a company that's assigned to this, what do they get? What can they use? What protections do we have that we don't see on some social media site, something that the city recorded?
So you guys can speak more to this if I don't cover it all. Sarah Laffin, Assistant Corporation Counsel. So we have an MOU with them that we have sent them that they're reviewing too, but we're going to make sure that the city retains all of its information, and they're just allowing their people to access it and assist us with it. So we're ensuring.
What does the access and assist mean, I guess?
I don't know the details, the technical details of it.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So specifically to release of information and your comment of release to social media, use on their website, any access that they want to any of our data, photo, video, any of our telemetry data or UAS data, they would have to go through the department's already approved release process. So the city and the fire department is retaining ownership of all of that data. None of that data will be owned by them. And in the MOU, they are bound to our release process, which is internal to us, which includes the team leads, myself, and our other two team leads, Deputy Chief Kite, and our IT staff, so that there's multiple layers before anything would be released.
And would this also fall within, like, you know what's going to happen, the Freedom of Information Act, and how long do we have to keep these things? And
I forget the retention time. That's somewhere in the agreement. We've talked about that with them actual years. But
so the fire department's actually taken the stance on the data. If you look at a lot of public safety departments, they are following guidance from public privacy organizations for retention time. The fire department took the stance in our initial discussions of this that we were actually going to hold all of our information and not remove any information. So we will be retaining all of our flight paths, all of our photo, and all of our video. The reason for that is because we are really on the cutting edge of this technology and an early adopter. So we wanted to make sure that if there was ever a concern about what our operations were as the community and as UAS technology catches up, we wanted to have the ability to go back and say, this is what we've done from day one, and have all of our flights, all of our flight plans, all of our photo and video, so that we can always have ourselves in a defensible position that we have acted appropriately with respect to the citizens of the city of Syracuse.
As far as FOIL goes too, there's a bunch of exemptions of things that we don't have to release under FOIL. A few of those things are proprietary information, law enforcement investigations, which this would qualify under. We wouldn't have to release that. Also, I know there's privacy concerns with that. We don't release things that are invasions of personal privacy. So on the citizen side, there's exemptions that protect us. I mean, we'd have to look closer at exactly what data is being collected and being released to know if exemptions cover every single thing. But there's a lot that we're able to deny requests based on that to protect confidential information. We're also signing a non-disclosure agreement with them too, so that protects some of this as well.
Questions?
Yeah. So I'd just like to state, I think this is great. I think more departments ought to be using technology like this. I think it's a great way to save money. It's something that I've pushed for since the previous administration was in. So I'm thrilled to see it and you guys using it. I guess my question is what specifically would you be using it for? Like, what is the common thing that you'd be using it for? Is it to check on vacant houses? Is it to check on fires to see, you know, I mean, what do you use it for on a regular basis?
So we've developed a number of use cases. Our current missions that we have completed have included 2 hazardous materials missions. The very large structure fire on North Salina Street. We used it to help isolate the location of a fire on North Wilbur Ave. So we have used it on structure fires. We've used it in assistance of our hazmat team. Our fire investigation unit has used the technology to assist them in getting evidence and obtaining evidence where previously that would have been very dangerous or very difficult to obtain. Additionally, we also have assisted other city departments. We are working on using it for pre-planning products, so for fire prevention, so going towards not necessarily vacant structures, but structures that have risk that our fire prevention folks have identified. We can use it there.
Can I ask a question? How durable are the drones as far as like how close can they get to the fire or like to the smoke before they aren't able to detect certain things? Like how does that work? Like how far can it go in?
So as far as heat and smoke, they're not very durable. So we do keep a good distance from that. That's one of the benefits to using this technology is we're finding we do operate a platform that has thermal imaging. That was our first platform and our first use being the fire department was having that thermal imaging capability to make decisions on fire grounds. The thermal imaging capability actually, we don't have to be close to the structure in order to determine that. We're able to be at a safe distance where we're not putting the platform in a position where it can fail and then cause damage. The thermal imaging technology, even at the level that we entered, is sufficient where we can be 100 feet away from the structure, 100 feet above and around, where we don't have to put it into a risky situation.
How many do you have now?
The fire department currently operates 3 drones.
3 drones, okay.
And I'd also like to say, as far as the use, if there's a hazmat incident and it's 50 yards away, we don't have to send our personnel. We can actually send the drone, figure out what's going on, and get some recon back from the drone, and then figure out our game plan instead of sending our people in and endangering them if possible. You know, and it's just something that, you know, it took a couple meetings for them to get me on board when I came in last year, and they proved to me that this technology is definitely worth the money that we've been spending on it.
I guess which is one of the questions. What are we spending on it?
Initially, I believe the drone cost around $10,000. I think when you guys
Just
bought
for
it
one?
before.
For a
It's for
drone?
the 3 of them.
The 3 of them is about $10,000.
It was about $10,000 and
Total?
total, and we spent $10,000 last fiscal year on training, and just when we were deployed, we spent about $10,000 on that, and that's about what I have budgeted for this fiscal year coming up.
So it's 30?
Somewhere- It'll be 30 coming into the next fiscal year.
That's your initial investment, and now you're
We're planning on $10,000 to $15,000 a year.
a year.
Yes, and that's with training. We have 9 members right now, and that's training 9 members. We've been assisting the police on certain alarms that they need us on that don't jeopardize anybody's privacy. But when there's any type of safety issue, we've been helping the police, so all that money is included in that $15,000, 10 to 15,000.
So you said you have thermal, do they have night vision and whatnot on this?
So within the thermal capability, within the way that camera works, we can operate it at night. So if there were, for instance, a missing person or something that we were looking for that had a temperature contrast, we would be able to use that for night operations.
Burglars on buildings, top of buildings and stuff like that, they could.
If the police were to request a specific use like that, where they were looking for a specific thing on top of a structure, yes. That's actually one of the missions that we've already flown in support of the police department. Is they were looking specifically at rooftops as part of an investigation and didn't really have the capability to hit the number of rooftops, so we were able to fly that for them and get good imagery for them.
What's the lifespan of the drones that we currently have? I mean, is it annual maintenance we need? What do we spend on something like that, or is it just it's good for 10 years and then we got to get a new one?
So the lifespan question is a little tricky because no one platform actually advertises it's good for this amount of time and then an expiration date. So a lot of that comes down to the amount of use, the amount of maintenance, and just kind of the overall condition of the ship. We inspect them routinely. We inspect them before every flight, and we perform routine maintenance on them. We're making sure that anything that needs to be changed on the airframes per manufacturer recommendation or per what we observe on the ship, that we're doing that. We had planned initially that our first platform would be able to run at least 2 years. We believe it'll go well beyond that and doing our best to take care of them.
And this may have been asked before I came in. So the data, is there data collection on these drones?
There is data collection on the drones. They collect within the platforms themselves. They collect GPS coordinates of where they are, where they flew, what altitude they flew at, right down to when we fly them, the amount of input on the controllers that you put into the drone to make it turn. So within the products themselves, they contain a lot of spatial data and a lot of data on how you operated that platform.
And they stated that they're going to maintain the data.
We are retaining
And
ownership of
it
the
is
data
not-
in this agreement.
And it is not available to the company for use.
It's not available to the company for use. They would be hosting and storing the data and actually translating that data into usable data for us. That's our main challenge and the main reason for looking at this agreement is that the data that these platforms receive, we don't have a good mechanism for QA or to go back and say, where did you fly, when did you fly, and what did you fly? We don't have a great mechanism to do that, to answer those questions or to present that. It's very choppy and very piecemeal. Part of this agreement would put it into a platform where when we download that data, we'll be able to see exactly where, exactly what times, and exactly how that platform was operated. They've also taken and increased their security within their system, where they are now integrating what photo and video was taken at what time. So if there was ever a question as to what we did or what we didn't do, we would be able to very readily be able to go into this system, pull that particular flight, and see in great detail what that flight was, what photo and video was taken, what direction even the platform was facing. So if somebody had a concern that you were near my home, what did you do? With this platform, we would be able to go in and see exactly where the platform was, exactly how it was facing, whether or not photo and video was taken. Right now, we couldn't provide those answers very easily.
Okay, because I know with the body cameras and the cameras on the poles, and we talk a lot about who's going to store, who's going to collect, who's going to have access to that information. I'm trying to figure out how I want to word this, because you're going to have information. Like you said, if she says you came by my house, so you would just open it up and show her or give her that information? How do you?
No, ma'am. I believe that would have to be a
Sarah Laffin, Assistant Corporation Counsel. So SFD is retaining ownership of all of this data, and we're also ensuring in the MOU with them that SFD has to approve who can see and who can't see the data. So anyone who wants to view anything within the system has to go through them.
And all the information that we will release will be through the regular channels that we already use for any information that gets requested for the city. So there's not gonna be somebody coming up to our office asking to see the video without us going through the law department and going through the legal channels that we already have.
Because I guess my concern is basically kind of like the body cameras. Do you have a procedure?
Policy.
Yeah, for it.
I think, you know, this program is so new, and I think that's what we're trying to get to with this partnership and figure out where do we need to go, and like questions like you're asking now, figuring out if this is somewhere we're going to be able to go with this MOU. But I think what we already have in place is enough security to move forward and make sure that people don't have access to this data that aren't supposed to have access to it.
And I hear you, Chief, but I guess I'm gonna keep beating this horse for a minute. But I guess I'm gonna go back because I know that we've had organizations standing before us, and they wanted to see a policy in place for any type of usage with any type of footage that you're able to collect.
That's something that I think we could work on creating. So for the purpose of this is about the MOU with the company, but if this goes forward, I think creating a public policy regarding how the drones will be used would make the public comfortable. So that's something that we can.
Because if we don't, they're gonna
Yeah.
be screaming and we're gonna be the ones hearing.
Yeah, I understand that. So I think that's something that, once we have the framework in place of how we're going to be working with the company and how they use the drones, that's something that we can create after we know what we're going to be doing with them. So
Okay, I just want us all to be
Yeah.
a little more proactive, because if not, you're gonna get the call and you're gonna get the call.
I agree with you. I agree with you, and we'll get a policy together.
yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
Other questions? Well, I thank you, and I'll call the